Inspiration, clarity, confidence, and wholehearted business strategy. Welcome to Your Next Chapter, the podcast especially for women in their 40s and beyond who know that business and personal development go hand in hand. Tune in each week for marketing, mindset, and personal growth strategies, along with inspiring stories from women around the world who are creating new businesses and lives that are personally fulfilling and financially rewarding. If you're looking to create a business and life you love, you're in great company. Let's find out what will unfold in your next chapter. I'm your host, Angela Rasmus, and I'm so delighted that you're here. Hi there, it's Angela Rasmus, and welcome back to another episode in the Your Next Chapter podcast. I'm really pleased that you're spending the time here with me today. And look, this is a really important episode, and I can't wait to share it with you. It's a subject that is really close to my own heart, and that is confidence and self-belief. There are so many women that I've found on this next chapter journey who are slowing themselves down or being sidetracked or not even starting because they don't own their value. Really have that confidence and that self-belief in that the business that you're wanting to create is really needed. The difference that you can make in the world is absolutely tangible. And so Lisa Phillips and I are diving deeply down into this topic to find some great tools, techniques, and new headspace for you to adopt so that you can get yourself and your work out there in the world. Now, Lisa's a certified and experienced confidence and life coach, and she really makes a huge difference in the life of so many women. She's all about helping you release old behaviors and outdated beliefs so that you can move forward, and I love this, become the person that you've always wanted to. Now, she's actually been regularly featured on TV and radio and in print, and she is also the author of the Confidence Coach book. All these details are on the show notes on my website so that you can connect up with Lisa. But look, our conversation bounced all over the place. I loved Lisa's perspective that you need to hang around with people who see your magnificence. We want to be lifted up, not dragged down. So that supporting circle of people that are close to you, and if you don't have them, go out and find them. Honestly, those people that are close and really hold your dream in their hearts as much as you do. I call them belief buddies, and I think they're an essential, actually, I know that they're an essential part of this next chapter journey. Now, in particular, Lisa and I are talking about her great concept of recognize when you're pushing upstream and instead let go and allow the flow of moving downstream towards your goals. There's so much to listen to in here. I'm sure you're going to end this particular episode bursting out of your shell and wanting to take action. And to help you do that, there is, of course, a wonderful download, an exercise sheet in association with this episode. Now, it is actually this time 7 ways to boost your confidence. Things you can do on an ongoing basis that really do begin to build up your self-belief and your confidence muscle so you can do more in the world that's important to you. So to get your hands on that particular download, you just go to angelarasmus.com/6 download. That's the number 6. That's angelarasmus.com/6 download, and you'll be able to get your hands on 7 ways to boost confidence. So let's dive in and find out how you can really develop that self-belief that will have you moving forward with confidence and a great vision for your future. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me again today on the Next Chapter podcast. And this morning, I am delighted to be introducing to you an amazing coach by the name of Lisa Phillips. Lisa, thank you so much for spending your time with us this morning. It's great to have you here.
No, it's a pleasure, and thank you for inviting me to be on the show.
It was an irresistible one. When I came across your site and when we had this first connection, the topic that your whole work revolves around, this concept of confidence, it comes up again and again and again. I actually did a survey amongst my own audience last year, and there was 190 women who replied to the survey, and one of the questions was, what's the biggest thing that holds you back from achieving what you want? And almost 90% of those women said, me, my self-belief, my confidence. And it just trips us up so often, doesn't it? Is that the reason why your work started in this area, because you saw this happening?
Yeah, well, I think it was one of two things. I had been working as a coach for about 10 years myself, sort of focusing on all areas like a life coach does. But I just saw it increasingly that every client who came to me really it was about what was going on inside. It was about their self-belief. It was about liking themselves. And I really saw then, that lack of confidence, how it can eat away at us, really. And so there I just sort of decided to sort of specialise on the area that I knew more people wanted. And to be quite honest, it was the area that I enjoyed. I'd suffered from a lack of confidence myself for many years. I absolutely wasn't one of those people who was born with confidence. I was always, whether it was at school or even in the workplace, I was one of those people that always felt awkward, didn't actually sort of feel comfortable, and always sort of looked at other people thinking, I want to be like that. I want to be more confident. And it wasn't actually until I found myself in a domestic violent relationship for 5 years that I really realised then that, confidence was about me. And if I wanted to have healthy relationships, if I wanted to feel better, that's the most important thing. If I wanted to feel better, then I had to do something about my own confidence. So then, as things do, I just went off on that journey.
Absolutely. And that's that. Often when I'm talking about next chapter businesses, or next chapter lives, there's often a catalyst that sort of moves us and says no more of whatever our situation is, whether it's there's different challenges that hit us at different times. And in your case, very personal, very sad when it comes to domestic violence being the challenge. But if we flip that, no matter what we go through, we can often find that is the thing that then steps us up onto another path where things can open up for us. And it's interesting how you were saying that. And if I look back and just as I did share with your bio earlier, an amazing career in finance and training and change management. But you said it wasn't until about your mid-30s that it opened up for you and you really recognized that you could take the wheel of the bus and change direction, was the expression that you used, which I love that, because it really sounds like that wake up, that empowerment. It's like, no, God damn it, I'm putting my hands on this wheel and I'm going to direct my life in the direction in which I want to take it. So what did you find were the tools that sort of helped you take that control and move forward?
Well, again, it was one of those turning points. Yes, my career was doing well. At that time, actually, I was working as an accountant. And, I was getting to do all these wonderful things. I was traveling around the world business class, which I totally loved. And, really was getting lots of external validation. And again, the catalyst for me was really a series of incidents happened where I was bullied at work. Then, as I mentioned before, I went into a domestic violent relationship. And I think the catalyst was virtually going into depression. I remember actually walking down the street one day and thinking, all of this stuff I've got on the outside, but how come, I still feel terrible on the inside? And it was really that moment where, I decided to get out of the back of the bus. I call it sort of empowerment and confidence, that we've all got a bus of life. And for many of us, we're sitting in the back seat. And we're allowing other people, our beliefs, our fears, what we should do. We're allowing those things to basically sit in the front seat of our bus. And we're sitting in the back. And we get resentful and we get annoyed because, let's face it, the bus isn't going in the direction that we want it to go. So we're really being a passenger in our own life. So it was then that I actually decided, I'm getting out the back seat. I'm getting in the front seat. And that was about sort of saying to myself, okay, this is where I want to be. What do I need to do to get there? I don't like the direction that my bus is going. I like some places that it's going. Some parts of the direction are good. But I really started to think, what do I really want? Not what I should do. So it was a real transformation period for me. I guess it was really sort of shedding some of that old crap, to be quite honest, and deciding that I wanted to leave it behind and step forward into this person that had been trying to get out for many, many years.
That's actually, I think that description just there is such a vital one to hear. That person had been trying to get out for many, many years. And so many of the women that are in the Next Chapter community or are standing on this edge of moving into something new describe it in the same way. It's inside of me. It's been sort of clawing, wanting to get out. And she tends
to get... go away.
No, it never goes away. That's the thing. If you keep thinking about something, it's going to keep tapping until, the universe will hit you across the side of the head with a 4x2 if you keep ignoring it. And so
absolutely,
that's when you have to step up. But that idea of, following your heart, following your passion, or just making that change that honours you, a lot of fear can come up around your ability to actually make the changes. I love the idea of getting clarity, because you need to be clear on what it is that you want before you can actually take control, follow the map, move towards your destination. But what do we do when fear gets in the way, or that self-doubt? Look, I'm not enough. Like, who do I think I am that I can change everything now and go in this new direction? Is that something that you felt as well and that you needed to overcome?
Definitely. But, it's really interesting. I see lots of information out there these days. It's all over Facebook. You've got to struggle. You've got to get rid of your fears. And actually, I don't believe that for 1 minute. I like to think, I'll go from a bus now to a canoe, okay? Because I like to think of life is, you're in a canoe, let's just say, in the middle of a stream. And let's just say your desire, what you want, is at the bottom of a stream. Okay, so that could be anything, whether it's a new career, a new relationship. You've got that desire, and I think it's really important to sort of say up front, that desire should feel good to you. That's really important. That desire needs to be your own desire, something that, that gift inside of you which doesn't go away. Now, many of us are in the canoe, and we're basically focusing the canoe upstream. And, if you think about what happens when you put a canoe upstream, it doesn't feel good. And that's the point where most of us are beating ourselves up. We're buying into our beliefs. We're thinking we're not good enough. Those fears are coming up. And many of us turn that canoe upstream and we buy into our fears and beliefs. And that keeps us stuck. And, have you ever thought about what happens if you put a canoe upstream? It's hard work. It's a struggle. It doesn't feel good. And importantly, you're actually getting further and further away from your desire, which is at the other end of the stream. So my philosophy basically is you need to turn that canoe downstream. So that is about being kind to yourself. That's about recognizing, you're going to have owed stuff. You're going to have self-doubt. You're going to have fears, and you're going to have all sorts of stuff that might come up on your journey to your desire. But it's not about struggling. It's about soothing. It's about encouraging yourself. It's about saying, you know what, it's okay. Yeah, I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling nervous at the moment. I don't know what to do. But you know what? I don't need to work it out right now. I'm going to be okay. I don't need to work it out right this minute. I'm just going to focus on turning my canoe downstream. And really, that stream symbolizes our emotions. Upstream is our negative emotions that will never feel good. We know it when we're beating ourselves up, when we're doubting ourselves, when we're criticizing ourselves, it doesn't feel good. Our body tells us, our body is our best GPS system. However, if we can take that canoe and turn it downstream, even if we are scared, even if we don't know what to do, we're actually pointing the canoe in the way of positive emotion. And if you can soothe yourself downstream, it's really about tuning into your inner guidance. It's acknowledging that you might feel scared. It's acknowledging perhaps that, maybe you need a little bit of help. It's acknowledging that, maybe you've done things a previous way and it hasn't worked out for you. What actually happens, it will feel better. And I encourage everybody to do this. Try it. Feel your body, how it will behave differently from beating yourself up to actually soothing and encouraging yourself, just like you would a child. If a 5-year-old child came to you and said they're scared or nervous, you would soothe them. You would say, it's okay, it's all right, everything's going to be fine. So when you do that to yourself, you turn your canoe downstream, and what happens is the stream will build momentum naturally. It's like the universe just sort of pushes your stream and everything falls into place. And of course, at the end of the day, then you are pointing in the right direction of where you want to go.
Absolutely.
To your desire. So, I'm a big believer in not making too much of our fears and beliefs. Stop focusing upstream. Start focusing downstream. Start soothing yourself. Start releasing resistance and being kind to yourself and focusing on how good the desire will feel. Focus on how wonderful it's going to feel when you've achieved that goal. And that's why I mentioned earlier on, it's really important that goal feels good to you. Because, there's many of us out there setting goals that perhaps aren't really authentically them. They're other people's goals, let's just say. But when you've got a big, juicy desire, oh my God, it feels amazing. It feels amazing. And then it's about soothing yourself into that desire. And that is so much easier. There's no struggle, and it feels great.
I love that emphasis on the emotions. And there was another woman that I've spoken to earlier this year that uses an expression called the body barometer. Your body barometer never lies. And as you've just so eloquently described, that concept of the desire that we have, it feels good. The things that we really want always feel good. So trusting our emotions is the number one thing we can do. I think quite often, women in particular, we've been shoulding all over ourselves for quite some time and pushed ourselves down the priority totem pole. Sometimes it's difficult to work out, well, what actually do I want? So it's tuning in, it's listening to that small voice, it's allowing ourselves some time and some space and grace to actually reconnect with what does make us feel good. And I know for sure, if I think about, some of my goals, the ones that feel crappy, the ones that feel heavy, the ones that feels, not only am I going upstream, I'm pulling along a dead weight with me.
Yes,
that's often the ones that I think I should be doing. Like my business should be growing in this way. I should produce programs in this way. It's all of those things where I'm following, if I stop and recognize it, because self-awareness seems to be the number one tool. If you stop and look, it's usually because you're following somebody else's map, not your own, which I think is what you're saying there. There's a writer, Kristen Neff, that you may or may not have come across, who writes about self-compassion, which is so essential. Your concept of, I love that, it's not about struggling, it's about soothing. I think we often forget that being kind to ourselves and actually taking care of ourselves will actually make that journey a lot easier. Would you agree?
Absolutely. That's spot on. And in fact, I guess that's a lot of my work. When I talk about confidence, it's actually the first step to confidence is soothing yourself and having more compassion with yourself at the end of the day. And then confidence becomes easy. But if you're beating yourself up, like you say many women do, we compare ourselves to other people, we think we're not good enough, we become people pleasers because we're trying to keep other people happy. We're so hard on ourselves. We are ridiculously hard on ourselves. So, really practicing compassion, and for many it's something that they may never have experienced before. So, again, I think of confidence as a muscle, and it's building it up gently, building that compassion up gently. But just like the stream, once you start to turn your canoe in the right direction, the momentum will take you, and it becomes easier to see yourself through the eyes of the universe, to see yourself through those, magnificent eyes that you really, really are.
Yeah, that kindness. And I think talking about the kind to yourself, I think some of the words that I often hear come up with my clients, and perhaps you do too, is, I shouldn't feel this way. It's always, we guilt ourselves into, we're feeling what we're feeling, and then you brought up resentment, which definitely becomes part of it, but the guilt that is a part of it as well. And if we actually allow ourselves to feel our feelings, because no one ever died from a feeling, and I often say to my own kids, you cannot deny what you're feeling. It's real, but it's allowing yourself to feel it and move through it. And I think when you manage to do that, you often build your trust muscle as well, which I see as such an important part of this. Okay, I've gone through it. I didn't die. Okay, I'll pick myself back up. Let's keep going, because you're not alone. I mean, the fears that you and I have touched on here, they're not unique to this conversation. I think we all know that there are some core beliefs or misbeliefs, as I like to call them, which people get of the, of the not good enough and the fear of not being included, and some of those classic core beliefs. But if we can get through to the other side and recognize that we're not alone with those, and that we can move through discomfort and get to the other side, that's when that self-belief, that self-confidence just lifts up that little bit more.
Lovely. Yeah, really, I love the way that you've actually described that. That's absolutely so true. It's allowing yourself to feel what you do. You know, I call it almost the first stage of the canoe, of getting in there in the first place. You know, actually getting in the canoe and saying, yeah, you know what, I feel crap today. I feel guilty today. I feel selfish today. But that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay for me to feel that. And again, that's just, your body goes, oh, yeah, that's okay. It's fine. You're not a bad person. You're just being a human being.
And often we get tied up and we're a human doing and forget that we're a human being as well. So we need to have that pause. But so as you're building this self-belief, as you're flexing your trust muscle, as you're increasing your confidence, I know, well, one of the lovely things is that, as with all of my episodes, when I have a gorgeous guest on like yourself, there is a download which will help here. And I've got the 7 ways to boost confidence, which will be available in the show notes with this episode. But let's just look at those on a daily basis. So here I am, acknowledging that my confidence is not the buoyant balloon that it could be, and I really do want to puff it up some more and have some tools that are at my disposal so that when I'm in the heat of the moment and my confidence takes a dash, you know, the canoe starts to go up as opposed to downstream. What are some practical things, Lisa, that we can do when we get hit with that? With me, it's the feeling in the pit of the stomach, like bang, that's where it hits me. Some other people, it might be in the heart or it might be in the shoulders. But when it hits, what are some practical things that we can do in the moment to boost ourselves again?
Okay, I think one of my first general tips here, and then we'll get on to something a little bit more specific, is you've got to care about how you feel, because, like you mentioned there, you're in the moment and you get and you're not feeling good. You know, it's recognizing it that it's upstream emotion, and when you care about feeling, and let's be honest here, most people don't. It's about recognize you don't want to keep going upstream. Recognizing that you want to feel better, and I think that's it's recognizing that you want to feel good, you want to feel better about that situation. The second step there, as I mentioned, acknowledge it. Oh, that hurt. Oh, yeah, I don't like that. That's not feeling good. Oh, I don't like that. Acknowledge it. It's almost like putting a stop then on any sort of snowballs of beating yourself up. So acknowledge it first of all, and then go straight into, it's okay that I feel like this. It's okay. You know, one of the biggest issues that we do as women, we make ourselves wrong for how we feel. So, you know, get into that phase of, instead of making yourself wrong, how about you make yourself right? And just acknowledge, it's okay. It's okay that I feel like this. You know, don't make it mean anything. Yeah, you got up in a bad mood, so what? You shouted at the kids, so what? You're feeling depressed, you burnt the dinner, so what? Do not make it mean that you are a failure or, you know, there's a fatal flaw. Just make it mean you're having a bad day and acknowledge that. And then from there, it's soothing and encouraging yourself. You know, I mentioned that before. Many people have got kids. Think about how you would speak to your child, or pets, let's just say. You know, you don't often scream and shout at them and tell that there's something wrong with them because they're feeling scared. You know, talk to yourself like you would a small child. And that can include what I call, you know, don't tune into that inner gremlin. We all know the inner gremlin. We all know the voice of the negative belief system. We all know what it's saying. You know, it's sort of the voice of doom. You know, recognize that that's spam. It's just spam. It's stuff that we've soaked up, you know, from years and years and years, and we're still believing it. And you can take your power back from that spam, because for many of us, it's driving our bus. You know, literally throw it out the front seat.
Oh, I love that. Emotional spam. Emotional spam.
Yeah, it's emotional spam. It really is. But many of us are still believing it. And that's okay. You know, I'm not making it wrong. It's okay. You know, I often say to myself, it's okay that I'm still believing that. I've been believing that for 30 years. But you know what? I'd like to change that now. I'd like to feel better about that. So, you know, again, it's recognizing that spam, but choosing to soothe and encourage yourself rather than beating yourself up for the spam in the first place. And once you start to do those things on a regular basis, you'll notice, your body, like you mentioned, it's your best GPS. It really is. It tells you when you are going off and beating yourself up, and it tells you when you're being nice to yourself. So care about yourself enough that you want to feel good. But that's really important. You've got to care about yourself. Otherwise, it's like, I'm not going to bother.
It's actually, as you were talking, I love that. The emotional spam is going to stick in my head now. But I'm getting a very strong picture as I'm imagining myself. I'm on the bus and I'm sitting a few rows back and I'm sitting beside a particularly obnoxious person, meaning my emotional spam, my inner critic, whatever you like to call it, who's having a go at me. Now, in the real world, if someone was doing that on the bus, I would move. I would get up and I would move. But we accept what we say to ourselves too often, is that we don't actually make peace with that inner critic and actually choose to, well, thanks very much, but I don't need to hear this. I'm going to move. And I've got that picture of myself stalking up the aisle and taking the wheel of the bus.
Beautiful.
That's great. I think there, the concept which you're suggesting, I believe, of being, giving yourself 100% unconditional support. And I know personally that I've definitely been through a journey of dealing with my own inner critic. I mean, I've shared my story in the past, but part of it is coming out of addiction. I've been sober for 9 years now, but before then, oh my goodness, the negative voice that used to talk to me and tell me how pathetic and hopeless and horrible and everything I was absolutely at the mercy of that voice. And before I got off that track, it just spiraled me down further and further emotionally. There's nothing I felt I could do. Once, thank goodness, I eventually got the help that I needed. I asked for the help and started dealing with that voice, because it can absolutely take you out. Completely take you out. These days, I'm extremely aware, and I think that is the key thing, being very aware of what that voice is saying to you and choosing to have a conversation with it without sounding completely crazy. Okay, there it is again, but recognizing that it is purely a habit, that it is something that I was doing for years and I needed to change it. And we do have that power. So yes, it was getting away from the obnoxious voice, walking up the front of the bus and actually speaking to myself a lot more calmly, a lot more compassionately, so that I could start to build some new beliefs. So it takes time, but you can start today. You can start right now, being aware that that negativity does not have to play a central role in your life now. You can build the confidence by shifting seats in the bus and being far more loving to yourself.
Beautiful.
It's a biggie. It's a biggie, this one.
It is. I mean, well done for sort of getting through your addiction. That's amazing. And I think, that's an interesting point, because, even these days we see a lot of people with addictions. It doesn't matter what it is. And, there's almost that shame. There's always that, it means there's something wrong with me. It means that I'm a bad person. And in doing that, all you do is send yourself further and further and further and further upstream. And actually, the kindest thing to do to yourself when you're in something like that is give yourself a break. It's okay. It's okay that I feel like this. I want to do something about it. I don't know what to do right now, maybe. But, I'm going to be kind to myself. And because there's so much about that shame involved, or I shouldn't be like this. So, we can control our thoughts. Don't think you have to jump from the back of the bus to the front of the bus in like a week. Like you said, it takes time. You can start to get up and walk away from that belief. Or even quite powerful is going, oh, there it goes again.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I've had that one for a long time. There it goes. That's often enough, because you're not feeding it. So, but brilliant work on what you've done with the addiction. That's fabulous.
And I think I had a lot of help there, but I think, that concept of addiction, we can be addicted to so many different things. It can be negativity, it can be food, it can be exercise. I didn't get the exercise one, goddammit, but it can be all different things. But the pattern is the same. The pattern is the self-doubt, the self-loathing, the self-contempt, which we need to change around. But, that's a deep subject for today. We'll come up a couple of layers for a moment. But that's that whole concept of making the decision today. Like anyone who's listening to this conversation who is feeling that desire to step into their next chapter, to do things differently, this is where it starts with the self-awareness, the willingness to want to make the change, and then the compassion to be patient with ourselves as we make that change, to give ourselves the positive reinforcement each time we make a move. I like to have a self-compassion plan. I often talk to my clients about having that, but also a joy list. So how are you going to reward yourself when you do, start to use a different behavior, when you start to give yourself evidence that you can catch your thoughts and make a change? Because it's really like it's building the belief muscle that we were talking about before, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And giving yourself that positive reinforcement is important as well. At the end of each day, I often say to people, just write down what you've done well that day. And women are hilarious. It's like you've got to run a marathon or cook a meal for 50 people. It's like, no, just write down every day something that you've done well. And it could be getting out of bed. It could be going for a walk. It could be as simple as just once, you manage to catch a negative thought. But the more you praise yourself and the more you give you that validation, the actual downstream will start to move quicker. But yeah, it's important. Be your own best friend, not your own best enemy. And, I think it's important to say you don't need to know right now how everything's going to work out. Just be willing. Just be willing to take that first step.
Yeah, that makes the big difference. Actually, there's another question here that I'd ask you, Lisa, is like we've talked a lot about how we can take control, how we can be aware of our thoughts and that building up our internal trust muscle. But one of the realities is that we also live in a world where we're getting external feedback as well. How important are our surrounding influences or our circle around us to give us support and to help us make these sort of moves forward, especially if we're starting a business, for example?
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably something I have an interesting view on. To be quite honest, my philosophy is when you feel good, you will attract people into your life who also feel good. For me, we are vibrational beings, and when we're on our downstream, and we're feeling better about yourself, the law of attraction will kick in, and you will just attract people who are on a similar vibration. But, it is just as important to only hang around with people who see your magnificence, who will support you. And the trouble with that sometimes is, I mentioned the stream earlier on. You've got to remember that everybody's got their own stream, okay? And everybody has a sort of idea about what you should be doing on your stream. Everybody wants to get on your stream at the end of the day. So, the first thing is about feeling good yourself, and then I guess trusting that the right people will come to you. But it is also about maybe looking at the people around you that don't make you feel so good. And sometimes you have to tell them to get off your stream. Sometimes you just have to sort of be a vibrational snob. And again, that goes back to how much do you want to feel good? Because we've all had it. I'm sure, Angela, you've had it. I've had it in my business. People have said, no, you can't do that. You need to do this. You need to do it this way. And don't get me wrong, I've stepped on other people's streams and I've sort of done things that didn't perhaps feel good. And now I've just learned that the most important person to listen to is yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, surround yourself with people who make you feel good, who make you go downstream, and also, don't feel that you have to keep everybody else happy around you. It really is about keeping yourself happy. So follow your own stream, follow your own business, and really just focus on feeling good, and then, the right people will surround you anyway.
That is a philosophy which I absolutely adhere to as well and totally believe. Oh my goodness, I've got this feeling we could talk for hours, but we are coming to the end of this particular episode, and it's been tremendous. I've got some brilliant quotes here that I've been writing down as we've been talking away. But essentially, what we're saying is that the emotions are the most important part to really lean into, to follow that desire, to follow what feels good. I've always had the philosophy of following your heart in business. You need to bring your head along as well, because there is the need for strategy and all the pieces that are important in the business puzzle. But don't start from a place of, I don't really want to do this, and that's going to make it even more upstream. So really, for your next chapter, you can absolutely go in a new direction where your heart is singing, and then follow afterwards with the effort that needs to go in. I love the idea of be a vibrational snob, because being around people who really are exuberant in what it is that they're wanting to do as well, because I believe that enthusiasm is currency. When you're doing what you love, when you're surrounded by people who are also doing what they love, that raises everyone's vibration, and nothing but positivity can happen as a result. Now, we're not being Pollyanna here. There are going to be whirlpools, and there's going to be, rocks in the stream and all the rest, but when we hit them or when we see them coming, our awareness will allow us to pause and move around them rather than get smacked straight in the face every time. But even if we do capsize occasionally, it's okay. If we have that self-compassion that we can get back in the boat and carry on downstream, then we're going to reach our goals. But ultimately, that confidence comes from practice, from taking action. No one ever felt confident, without actually sitting on the side of the road without even getting in the bus. We've actually got to be moving to be able to build that self-confident muscle. That's how it feels. Well, I'm really looking forward to sharing this download, the 7 ways to boost confidence, which everyone will be able to get a copy of listening to today's episode in the show notes. But if people want to come and find out more about the work that you're doing in the world, and particularly your book and other things like that, what's the best way in which they can contact you?
Okay, yeah. Earlier this year, I had my book published, which is called The Confidence Coach. You can find it in most bookstores, or just search for The Confidence Coach Lisa Phillips online, or check out my website, which is www.amazingcoaching.com.au, or my Facebook page, which is Amazing Coaching as well.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much again. That was one of those conversations where I'm just walking a little bit taller this morning after connecting with you. So I really enjoyed it, and I hope you have as well.
I have. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And everyone who's been listening to this episode, that's what we need to do. We need to build those confidence muscles, because everything is possible once you back yourself. Even in just a small way today, make the decision to turn the canoe around and start flowing downstream instead of struggling upstream. Really listen to your emotions and follow those. They are the best map that you have. So this is Angela Raspis with the Next Chapter podcast, and I look forward to connecting with you again very soon. Have a great day. Thanks for listening to the Your Next Chapter podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please let me know. Pop over to angelaraspis.com to subscribe to the show and leave a review. And whilst you're there, you can also enjoy valuable free resources, including show notes and downloads, along with the Next Chapter community, where you can connect with other wholehearted women on the same journey as you. We'd love to welcome and support you as your next chapter unfolds. See you next time.